Hello everyone and welcome to Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com, the number one Superman fan site in the world. In this, our August 12th, 2024 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including whether or not there'll be reshoots for the upcoming Superman movie. We're going to be talking about special screenings for Superman the movie and Supergirl the movie. We're going to be talking about the premiere and official synopsis for Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. We've got a costume analysis for Bob Holliday's Clark Kent. We've got so much to get through, and joining me as always are my two good friends and co-hosts, Michael Bailey and Mark Lax. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello, Steve. Hello, Mike.
Doing well. A little bit nasally here today, a bit congested, but battling through. Man flu. Won't hold me down, but I'll get through it, and we will manage. But I was saying to Mark off screen, if you like, before we got on tonight, that a little bit of a slow news week for Superman with the movie going into post-production phase, so not a lot to report on there. But I see, Michael, you're wearing your new Schmick Superman 2025 Superman t-shirt.
Absolutely, bought it through the Superman homepage link because
Good man.
The Amazon, you actually get to choose different sizes and different colors.
Yeah.
I don't look good in traditional Superman blue, so I went with the kind of darker blue. So, but no, it came the other day, and it's very comfy. So
Cool.
This isn't like the one from the DC shop, but it's still. I'm very happy to have it.
Yeah. They're
Going to come in handy in a couple weeks.
Yeah, they're printed on demand, so yeah, you can get whether you want a t-shirt, hoodie, singlet, top, whatever you're looking for, you can get them done at the Amazon. And if you wanted to get yours, like Michael, you can just simply go to supermanhomepage.com/Superman2025 is the special link. No extra cost to you. We just get kickbacks from that link as an affiliate link, so it's a great way to support the site at no extra cost to you other than the purchase of the item that you're buying. And speaking of helping out the website, thank you to our sponsors and our patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. Want to thank them for being great supporters of the site and buying us a coffee. Finally got my Superman mug, drinking my coffee out of my Superman mug today.
Yay!
So thank you. There it is.
There it is. Wow.
It's even got a handle on it.
Oh, that's
there.
a fancy one.
That's great.
So yeah, thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray for supporting the website. And if you want to join those fine folks and help support the website, you can simply go to our YouTube channel and click the join button. Different levels of membership with different levels of perks, or you can go to patreon.com/Superman homepage. All right, so let's get into tonight's topics. As I said, not a lot to get through in regards to news because of the fact that the movie is now in post-production, so we're not seeing the on-site photos that we saw in Cleveland and wherever they were filming different outdoor scenes for the film. But James Gunn has been asked a number of questions in regards to whether or not he'll be doing reshoots and things, and Superman hasn't had a great history with reshoots, especially when you think about the Justice League movie where they had to get Henry Cavill back with his handlebar mustache when he was doing the Mission Impossible films that he couldn't shave off, and we all know about Mustache Gate and how that panned out. But James Gunn says that on his Threads social media account, he says, there's still lots of work to be done and nowhere near finished with the movie. Obviously, once they're finished shooting, they go into editing, visual effects, sound, and scoring. But as far as reshoots are concerned, he says he's done a total of 1 day of reshoots on the past 2 films combined. So the reason for that is that he plans and does more planning so that he is over-prepared and isn't required to go back and pick up anything that he didn't get to do at the time, which makes sense.
Yeah, I think more also to the point with this project especially is, he's the head of the studio. So,
Yeah.
usually it's the head of the studio or the executives high up that ask for reshoots or want something changed. And he seemed to have his ducks in a row, and I'm sure. Unfortunately, there was a strike last year, but I'm sure that kind of helped in giving him a little extra time to get things together.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he wanted, and you know, it's funny that this seems to be the like most organized of any of the Superman movies from this century.
Mm.
Superman Returns had reshoots. They went back. There's all kinds of drama apparently in the background of that we don't have near the time to get into. But they had to go back. I mean, the shot of him getting the scene of him getting shot in the eye was a reshoot, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, it was
Returns.
the final scene that they ended up filming for the film. It was a location up in Newcastle here in Australia, in New South Wales, where I live. And yeah, it was something that they decided late in the process to add. So yeah, I don't know if it was a reshoot, but it was definitely like an afterthought.
Yeah, and movies these days, usually if there's a bunch of reshoots and added on stuff like that at the end, it just shows that it was a chaotic production. The Flash had a bunch, and it kind of shows. Not throwing shade, but at the same time, I'm really happy that it's this organized. And it's kind of weird it being, like all the production being over, because I think this is the most fun we've had, or at least that I've had personally through the production of a Superman film. Man of Steel, we didn't get a whole lot of stuff coming out. Like every once in a while, like we got the picture of the truck that we went over, like it was the Zapruder film, trying to figure out why it was doing that and what was going on with that. And we had a bunch of stuff with Superman Returns, but here it just seems like Gunn had a pretty lively set, and the pictures that leaked didn't really look bad. And they gave us an excellent look at the costume. So yeah, I'm kind of sad that it's over. It's gonna be a long wait until the trailer.
Yeah, it has been fun. I mean, at first I thought they were maybe revealing a little too much. You like to keep a few things hidden, but I mean, it's the internet. You can't keep anything hidden anymore. So in the end, I came to enjoy everything that they were showing, and obviously we don't know everything that's going on, and looks are deceiving, and a lot of this stuff is pre-product, before special effects and all of that. So who knows how it's going to look when it's all set up. So it was a lot of fun each week. What are we going to see now? What are going to show us now?
Yeah, and it was a good time to be reporting on stuff. We had heaps of news items going up on the website because of everything we were seeing, the photos and the footage that was coming out of Cleveland. And now they go behind the curtain, so to speak, and they start doing all their special effects and scoring and editing and all that kind of stuff. And so we have to wait. And we now wait until to see, when we might see something. And obviously we didn't see anything at San Diego Comic-Con, and James Gunn and Peter Safran especially was saying, look, it's way too early. It's like a year out. You don't start promoting a film this early in the schedule. But next up is New York Comic-Con in October, which, when asked about that, James Gunn just gave a thoughtful emoji in response. So is he hinting that we might see something, or there might be a presence of DC Studios with something Superman related at New York Comic Con in October? Thoughts, Michael? Do you think we'll see anything?
Have they ever launched a trailer at New York Comic Con? I'm not. I mean, it would be the talk of the con. I'm pretty sure. That would be a good time to release a teaser trailer, at the very least. It's still far out, but it's not too far out, and they would have been editing and doing post production for a couple months leading up to that. So that might be a good place to launch it. I mean, you don't have another San Diego Comic-Con type convention before then to do that at. So yeah, I mean that would be a good place to have it. It would show probably more of a presence for like DC Studios in general, because we got the Creature Commandos coming out.
Yep.
They're working on the second season of Peacemaker right now. Gunn will be directing an episode of that as well. So I'm kind of hopeful for that in that case, because if it's October, then yes, it's not too soon.
Let's see. Yeah, I'll be interested to see whether we get some kind of a teaser or something. I'm sure, with Gunn having always been using like editing as he goes along, and with the score, being, already kind of used as part of their filming process, he'll have something there to be able to show us. So just whether or not he will, we'll wait and see. But, October till July, I don't know. Is it like that'll be what, 9 months? No, a little bit more. 10 months?
Yeah, somewhere around there. At least 10.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is 10 months too early, Mark?
Well, maybe. I do think they're going to have, just a few seconds, something to just give us a glimpse of this, a glimpse of that, to make you go, oh, yeah, that looks, either that looks great or that doesn't look great. But they're not going to show much. But I think there's going to be something. He's got something, underneath his hat. We'll see something there.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. So New York Comic Con coming up in mid-October. So 2 months away. We'll wait and see if anything comes of that. All right, so that's where we're at with the new Superman movie. Like I said, they're in post-production phase now, so there's not much that we can see or hear about the film other than what James Gunn might drop on his social media accounts. But something that is coming our way quite soon is the documentary film Superman, the Christopher Reeve Story. An official synopsis has been released for this documentary film. It says the story of Christopher Reeve is an astonishing rise from unknown actor to iconic movie star, and his definitive portrayal of Clark Kent Superman set the benchmark for the superhero cinematic universes that dominate cinema today. Reeve portrayed the Man of Steel in 4 Superman films and played dozens of other roles that displayed his talent and range as an actor, but before being injured in a near-fatal horse riding accident in 1995 that left him paralyzed from the neck down. So that's the synopsis. We did also get a official movie graphic, if you like, a title for the film. Interesting that they use almost like a fortress crystal as the separator between Super and Man, and a marble effect on the title there with the text. So, as we know, this will premiere on September 1st in the US with an encore presentation on September 25th, which will be Christopher Reeve's birthday. If you're in the UK, you have to wait till November 1st. If you're in Australia, you can see the film in theatres on October 10th. But there will be a special Melbourne premiere in Victoria here in Australia on August 17th and August 24th at the Melbourne International Film Festival. So if you're lucky enough to be in Melbourne at the International Film Festival there, August 17th and August 24th, so later this week and next week, 7 p.m. both, 3 p.m. on the Saturday and 7 p.m. on the following Saturday, August 24th. You can get your tickets from miff.com.au. I'm looking forward to
So
this.
you heading out there, Steve?
No, Melbourne is like a couple of, it's a flight to the next state.
Yeah.
So it's not something you just go for. I mean, you can just go for the weekend, but, I can wait a little bit longer. I missed the Sydney Film Festival or Sydney premiere that was supposedly like last month. I didn't even know about it. So that was like, But, sometimes these things
You mean
happen.
they didn't reach out to you and tell you that,
I actually contacted the Warner Brothers, what do you call them, marketing manager or whatever, local one out here, and after the fact, and She's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Like, I would have invited you to the Sydney one." And I was like, "Yeah, I wish I knew who you were, so I could have contacted you." So won't let that happen twice, especially if there's anything coming up for the next Superman film. So these people always change. These positions always change within Warner Brothers, and they don't necessarily always pass on all their contacts for fan sites and things like that. So you've always got to kind of put it out there and contact whoever might be the new person in those roles to be able to keep yourself in their, I was going to say Rolodex, but that would be dating me.
And digital Rolodex. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still a
Still
thing.
relevant.
Though I can say that it was only like a year ago that when I was working for office supply stores, we had one Rolodex left that
Oh,
we were
wow.
selling. And like every once in a while, somebody who was a little more seasoned, a little older, wanted to come in for things. It was always funny to have over the radio, does anybody know what a Rolodex is? And then I realized how young the people working for me were. So that was always fun.
Maybe for those who are watching and who have no idea what we're talking about, we'll look up. I'll find an image for one so you know exactly what we're talking about. Here we go. I'm going to grab this one so you know what it is we're talking about. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Give me a second. Oops, not there. Here, this is what a Rolodex is. So it's little index cards there. It's called a Rolodex because it rolls. You can go back in through your alphabet, and each of those cards would have somebody's contact details on there. So like little business cards, if you like. And there you go. So that's what a Rolodex is for those who are younger than us.
Oh, so that's what it
Nostalgic
looks like.
Oh, go away, Mark. Don't make out like you don't know what it is.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling us.
Nostalgic Pod Blast asks, does anybody know what a radio is? I don't know the answer to that question, but I did have to give I don't know if I want to call it a presentation, but explaining like everybody knew what a turntable was,
Right.
to play
Back in fashion.
but they had no idea why there was the little 45 adapter. So it was this whole thing. Like,
Oh,
45s.
wow.
It was a little record. It had a song on one side and a song on another in case you didn't want to buy the entire album. Why would you only want to buy one song? Why do you only want to buy one song on iTunes? Okay. Well, what was 33? Well, what was RPM, which is rotations? And then by the end of it, I was just so frustrated because they kept asking questions and not understanding. Like, I got to the single. More, they're like a tape with one. Yeah, guys, just get back to work. Just
exactly.
Go now.
Get off my lawn. Wow. So funny how technology has just moved so fast, and things like Rolodex and fax machines and typewriters and all those kinds of things are gone out the window.
You say that, but over here in the States, I don't know how it is in Australia. Over here in the States, legal firms like attorneys and medical, like doctors' offices, do not like to accept emails. They want faxes because they're more secure. They can't hack into a fax. But unfortunately, everyone's giving up their landlines in favor of their cell phones. So they're like, well, can I send a fax wirelessly? I'm like, yeah, it's called an email. And then they want to speak to my manager because apparently I'm being disrespectful.
Wow. Far out. Just something came to mind there. You were talking about technologies and things like that, and about the radio. I mean, before radio, they used to call it a wireless. So even older terminology.
Yeah, radio in like the 30s and 40s, radio was considered like calling something radio would be like calling something cyber in the 90s. It's why the wagons were called radio flyers because it made them cooler. So it's just it's really weird to dig into these things. I don't recommend it because it's not going to help you with anything in life. But
No.
still,
Still entertaining to learn about this history.
Yes, exactly. And see how far we've come and how far we're going with everything that's happening now with AI and all those kinds of things. So, yeah, Justin's bringing up Morse code, even going further back. So, before we get out of this deep, dark black hole that we're sinking into, let's talking about screenings of films and looking back in time as well. There are some special screenings taking place around about for Superman the movie this coming week and this coming month. In fact, on Thursday this week, Superman the movie, will be screening at Roanoke in Virginia, and that'll be at 7 p.m. on Thursday at the Grand Inn Theatre. And then tickets are only $7.33. You can purchase them through our website. And then there are special screenings for Supergirl, the 1984 film, which is obviously celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. You can see a special screening of that at the Showroom Cinema in New Jersey at 7:30 on Tuesday, so tomorrow night, August 13th. Tickets are $15, showroomcinemas.com. The Alamo Drafthouse in both New Mission in San Francisco and in Raleigh, where is that one? In NC, is that North Carolina?
North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, okay. The New Mission one is on Wednesday, August 14th, and the Raleigh one is on Wednesday, August 28th. So if you're in those areas and you're looking to get to see either of these films on the big screen, those are the dates. You can head to our website for those information and for the links on purchasing tickets. But Supergirl the movie, 40th anniversary this year. Not one of the greatest films of all time, but Helen Slater was definitely a great Supergirl. And
Yes.
It's, the visuals are still pretty good for its time, especially the whole flying sequence that she does on the wire rig. It's still pretty impressive. But, I don't know how... I don't know if I saw this film on the big screen at the time, but I definitely remember seeing it as a youngster.
I was there the first day.
Oh,
First
cool.
day it opened,
Really?
I was there.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I was still a little young to be going to movies like opening weekend, unless it was Star Wars, and I can convince my parents. But yeah, it's Nostalgic Podblast is actually bringing it up in the comments right now. There's like three edits of this film that are available. There's because the U.S. one was horribly cut down. And then there was an international cut and a director's cut, and they get progressively longer. I'm not sure the film necessarily gets better the longer it is, because it's an odd one, and I feel bad kind of being hard on it, because all of the decisions seem to be made that it was a girl and not a man. So the bad guy was a witch, was a woman. And it was all a little more mystical and magical instead of being more of the sci-fi that Superman the movie was. Though it did occur to me, thanks to somebody talking about it, that basically what I'm assuming is that in the Donnerverse, Argo City were a bunch of freaking hippies that wanted to live on their own, and you could just imagine them playing bongos and stuff, because it looked nothing like the Krypton that we saw in the Reeve films. So that's why they were able to escape, because they were living on a commune basically. They were literally 2 seconds. Look, I'm just telling you right now, Zor-El was eventually going to convince them all to kill themselves, and it was just going to go to an end. So it's a good thing that Kara got out of there.
Yeah. But she went back.
Yeah. That's true. She did go back. She went back. Very good. So, that's some screenings if you want to check them out on our website. And speaking of upcoming films, that we mentioned the Christopher Reeve one, but there's also a documentary film on the Legend of Kingdom Come. And we had a official preview of this documentary film about the making of the legendary comic book series by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. Have a look at a bit of this.
I fell a great star from heaven, and I beheld and heard an angel.
I remember when The Dark Knight Returns came out. I remember when Watchmen came out. So of course I remember when Kingdom Come came out.
Kingdom Come is 4 separate issues, 48 pages apiece. It was an all-immersive kind of lifestyle for me.
It blew people away. I mean, this was the most sought-after book there was.
This was something very new, very different.
No one had seen anything like that at that scale before.
It was amazing.
I never thought from anything that people would still be talking about this book 25 years later.
There were voices.
So there you have it. That's just a bit of the preview trailer that is available on our website if you want to check it out. And this documentary is going through its fundraising. It's doing a Kickstarter for its fundraising, crowdfunding for it. legendofkingdomcome.com if you're interested, or you can follow the Alex Ross art on social media for updates. But it's always interesting, especially when it's something of this magnitude. You know, it was such a great and epic graphic novel series, to see the behind the scenes of how it all came about and the story behind the story.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those evergreen books. I mean, they're still putting out new editions of it. But it's easy to forget that back in '96 and in the late '90s, like, this thing coming out on a monthly basis, it was the thing you were talking about at the comic shop. I remember when the last issue came out, everyone was, because I hung out with jerks at the time, were giving me a hard time because Captain Marvel was doing a pretty good job of pasting Superman. But there was all kind. I mean, this was one of the first ones to get a really not one of the first ones, but it got like a nice hardcover slipcase edition.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of rare at the time. And there were books written on it. One of them from this book that was a magazine called Comicsology that actually had to get pulled. They had to pull all the copies because DC slapped them with a cease and desist letter because they were going to publish all that material in their slipcase book. So it's just really funny to think that, like, it was like this huge deal back then and we're still talking about it now. And I'm really looking forward to the documentary. I hope it does kind of do a good job of diving into it. But the thing is that these documentaries aren't necessarily made for comic book fans.
No.
Documentaries in and of themselves are made for, it's like the movie, you know, like the Superman movie that's coming out next year. It's not made for us. You know, we're in the loop, but they want a bunch of people to watch this. So usually they don't do as deep a dive. But, you know, if you've got Alex Ross and Mark Waid, you know, being interviewed, you're probably going to get some good material.
Definitely.
Plus, I mean, the story was so huge, and it was a comic book. I mean, a lot of things came after, not all good. I mean, some not so bad, but you know, it was so popular, you know, as a comic book. So what they're talking about is the comic book itself. Obviously, they want to also get some general audience to talk about the different characters and all of that. But you know, we're looking at it as this epic, iconic story, and it all came from that comic book. And there wasn't really any live action. I know the Crisis and, you know, the Arrowverse and all that, but there really hasn't been anything live action about it or anything really animated about it. So, you know, it all comes from that comic book. So yeah, they certainly want a general audience as well, but I think a lot of it is for us. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just think, you know, and again, if Alex Ross and Mark Waid are there, then it's got to be pretty reputable.
Yeah, definitely. Mind the Gap saying, in your opinion, do you think it was a mistake not having enough evergreen Superman stories from the 90s? Kingdom Come would be a big one, but I sadly think some fans learned the wrong lessons.
That's... I kind of agree with that, because when you think of Superman stories from the 90s, the one you think of more than anything else is the death of Superman and the stories that follow. That takes up a lot of the oxygen in the room, and I don't think, as much as I enjoyed the stories that came afterwards, there isn't anything really that you can keep reprinting and reprinting and reprinting. And, do they think that fans learn the wrong lessons? It's interesting because the lesson of Kingdom Come is that superheroes should not live above you, they should live with you. And one of the things that Mark Waid has talked about is, and it took him the longest time to wrap his head around, is that Superman was wrong at the beginning of the story. He was wrong to leave. And the reason he was wrong is because he failed to see what a figure of inspiration he was. And that seems to get lost in the shuffle because everything's about the iconography of the story now. Superman with a black S, Batman in the armor. He mentions, it negatively affected Wonder Woman for decades. Writers and artists that came afterwards did definitely pick up that warrior aspect that was played up here. But at its heart, it was just a story by two people who were old school DC fans. Ross started work on the project in 1994, and he was basically reacting to what comic book culture was at the time. Magog, as a character, was every Rob Liefeld cliche thrown into one figure. But by the time it came out, that era of comics had kind of passed, so it became something else. It's weird to think about when you put it on that level. But yeah, I think maybe, you see, when I say that they should have done more, it sounds like I'm saying that the people who were writing and drawing Superman at the time weren't doing the best job they can, and I think they were in an industry that was in free fall. So it's kind of that's not an easy question to ask, because there's a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah, good point. All right, well, we are just over the halfway mark of tonight's show. We're going to jump straight into our fan favorite question and then jump into the costume analysis for Bob Holliday's Clark Kent. And if we have time, This Week in History, we'll be back. We'll be jumping straight into fan favorite question right now. All right, so our fan favorite question, jumping on board from the other previous ones, was what is your favorite Cyborg Superman comic book cover? And we had a few people respond. Who was first up, Michael?
Lorenzo Valdez wrote in and said, one of the very first things Brian Q. Miller did when he began writing the Smallville Season 11 comics was to introduce in the debut arc Guardian, one of the very few Superman characters created prior to the show's premiere that never appeared on the show itself, Hank Henshaw. I submit this cover from Smallville Season 11, number 4, depicting Henshaw doing battle with Tom Welling's Superman as my favorite Cyborg Superman comic book cover.
There you go. Thank you. That's a great one. Thank you, Lorenzo.
And Jason J. wrote, my runner-up Cyborg Superman cover is Tales of the Sinestro Corps Special by Van Sciver. And then my favorite is this amazing cover from Superman number 79, Dan Jurgens at the height of his powers, I would say.
That's definitely a cool Cyborg Superman by Dan Jurgens. And there is the other one that Jason mentions there. So thank you to Jason for that one. Next up, we have JP Rocha, who sent in this image saying, my favorite Cyborg Superman cover is the original in Superman number 78, drawn by Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding. Another great Dan Jurgens comic book cover. Yes. I think Dan Jurgens does the best Cyborg Superman, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No question about it.
And they were the three people who sent in their responses. So thank you so much to Lorenzo, Jason, and JP for their responses to the fan favorite question for this week. And our new fan favorite question for this coming week is similar but different. We got, what is your favorite Supergirl comic book cover? So Supergirl of any era, any type of Supergirl costume, design, what have you. your favorite Supergirl comic book cover, send them through to us at the email address info@supermanhomepage.com, and we will show and read out the responses that we receive when we return to this segment next week. info@supermanhomepage.com. That is the fan favorite segment for this week. All right, let's jump into the costume analysis, that series that we have been doing, now looking at the Clark Kent costumes. And this time around, we jump to 1966, where we look at the costume of Bob Holliday, who starred as Superman Clark Kent in the 1966 Broadway musical It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman. There aren't a lot of images of Bob Holliday in the Clark Kent costume, but we do have some that we can, enough for us to be able to look at and to analyze. And we start with the glasses. So we have this image of Clark Kent sitting at the typewriter at the Daily Planet, and pretty much stock standard kind of black rimmed glasses there with actual glass in them.
Yeah. I like that he's wearing the hat at the desk. That's how professional Clark Kent is. He just doesn't take that hat off for anything. No, I mean, it's funny because we don't have like a couple good, like, stand up, from head to toe pictures. We're kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Limited in what we can talk about. Yeah. I will say this, in terms of looking different from Clark Kent to Superman, Bob Holliday's got that on lock.
Oh yeah.
He's carrying himself different, and he's got that look that I think a lot of us have at the office.
It's like, I want to go home.
Yeah. Just tired of dealing with everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're basically just your, stock glasses, prop department kind of thing. But,
exactly.
It's just, I mean, they're the lenses are a little bigger, which, as you said, could maybe hide the identity a little bit. I mean, he's got that whole forlorn look on his face. And then when you see him as Superman, there is a difference, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And then we move to the hat in the same image here. Very similar to George Reeves, that he liked to sit the hat kind of back a little bit, which is probably for a number of things. One, from a technical point of view, when you're filming something, you don't want to be covering the person's face too much. You want to be able to, the lighting has got to be able to hit on their face and what have you, and you got to be able to see them from that perspective. But it almost also gives that kind of a bit of a laid back, relaxed kind of feel to it as well, which here in the office, as you're saying, with that forlorn look of, gee, can I go home already? Is it 5 o'clock? It's kind of, it sits well, but it's that's classic fedora and a little bit crumpled, but I mean, that happens when you're taking your hat on and off all the time, as they were wont to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I do wonder why. The one thing that I'm kind of curious about, and it's basically true of just every Clark Kent up until like Dean Cain. Like, why does he keep the sport coat on even when he's sitting down? I mean, when you're at the office and you're writing a story, you probably want to be a little more comfortable than that. And so, when you take the jacket off, hang it on the back of your chair or on a hook, take the hat off, and just get to work. Maybe I'm overthinking this.
Back then, they were so sophisticated.
Yes,
they always
that's it.
Hat, tie, and jacket everywhere they went. When they were sitting, when they were eating, when they were in the shower. I mean, these guys, they were. I mean, really. I mean, watch the old movies. More or less.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know about the shower, but it was not the kind of thing where you took it off, you didn't hang your jacket anywhere, or I mean, maybe your hat, they had hat racks, but pretty much you left your jacket on the whole time. You didn't go around with your dress shirt showing. But talking about there's the cap again, get a bit of a side-on view, but then you look at the suit, and we've got the tie. You can tell it's the 60s here because there's something funky going on about the pattern in that tie, but and it's a pinstripe suit. It's not double-breasted anymore. We're in the 60s now, so it's a single-breasted jacket. I would love to see further down to see if there was. I mean, there's his changing into the costume, but the pants legs, there they are. They're not too flary. Where in in the 60s, we could have got flared pants, bell-bottom pants, but this is Clark Kent. He's a straighty 180, so we just got the straight leg, but a little bit baggy in the pants.
I think it's funny. I never realized growing up that Linda Lavin, who's playing what's her name there? I can't even remember her name in the musical. God, I want to call her Cat Grant because that's essentially who she is, the ancestor to. But I grew up watching Alice in syndication.
Yes.
And just to think that she was the one that she had a huge Broadway career. And she's on the original cast recording, so it's kind of neat seeing pictures of her in here. I know that has nothing to do with Clark Kent, but
well,
I mean, what else are we going to get to talk about Linda Lavin in "It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman"? I mean,
exactly
in a miniskirt.
I was surprised too the first time I heard that she was she played a character in this show, and then I learned that she had a big Broadway career.
Yeah, so that's the shirt, the suit. Who does she play? Plays a secretary. It doesn't say who she played. Can't think of the name.
She's Max Minkin's secretary, and Max Minkin was played by a guy named Jack Cassidy.
Yes,
whose son Patrick Cassidy was in both Lois and Clark, and he was Henry Small on Smallville.
Right.
And like the entire Cassidy family was destined to be in comic book properties because his other son was David Cassidy,
yes,
who was on the Partridge Family, but also was the Mirror Master on the 1990s Flash series, and David Cassidy's daughter was Black Canary on Arrow. So it's like this entire family was just destined to be in DC DC adaptations through the generation. That's literally like 3 generations of people. I mean, that's amazing.
That is pretty impressive. And so we look at the hair. Really, the only kind of idea we get about the hair is in this image here. We can see he's neatly parted on the left-hand side. Not too dissimilar from his Superman hair, other than the fact that we can see that the S-curl does drop when he is Superman, and it's coming down on his forehead there. And I think the hat probably helps that keep in place when he is playing Clark Kent. But overall, I loved Bob Holliday. Obviously, we never saw any footage other than some of the promos and commercials that he participated in. I did one as a reel recently on both our YouTube shorts and on our social media on Facebook and TikTok, and Instagram. But when I met Bob at the Superman celebration, he was a gentleman and absolutely loved the fact that he was part of the Superman family. And probably not enough is said about his portrayal of both Superman and Clark Kent.
Yep. No, when I finally got my hands on the cast recording, it's an impressive performance. He's got some pipes.
Yeah.
He had a nice baritone voice, and there is a little bit of lightening up the tone when he's singing "Doing Good" when he's turning into Clark Kent, and it's just a fun show. They in more recent productions have had a different book, which is the script to a musical, and they kind of change things a little bit. But because the original, there are certain parts of it that don't age well. But I mean, it's just a shame that this thing didn't do as well on Broadway as I think it should have, because it had a fantastic pedigree. You had the people that did music for Bye Bye Birdie doing the music, and the book was written by David Newman and Robert Benton, who would go on to do script work on Superman 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
So it's if y'all ever get a chance to listen to it, I would really recommend it. Steve's right. Bob Holliday seemed to be a really nice guy. He retired to the Poconos in Pennsylvania and became a big land developer up there, from what I understand.
Yep. Bob Holiday Homes. So there you go.
One thing I'll say about the show, it had a lot of heart.
Yes.
You know, I mean, people really, they weren't just cashing in on the name. They did want to put did want to put on a good show, you know, as opposed to other superhero type of musicals we've got, you know.
Definitely.
So I'll give it that for sure.
So yeah, it's hard to really judge, but you know, just based on the images we've seen alone, I'd go a solid 8 out of 10 for Bob Holiday as Clark Kent, as far as the look is concerned.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
All right, I'll unanimous 8.
Guilty.
Well, don't have us twist your arm. Don't have us twist your arm there, Mark.
No, I'm just, you know.
If you don't like it, say so.
He does look like Clark Kent. He does look like, you know, what you would picture Clark Kent.
Exactly. All right, so we move on to our costume analysis next week, where we have a lot to sink our teeth into when we move into the 1978 classic played by Christopher Reeve, Superman the movie. So we will look into that when we return to this series next week. All right, let's jump now into This Week in History. It is back, folks, without any reviews to do for My Adventures with Superman, without any interviews this week. We are jumping back into This Week in History, so here is Michael's intro.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bubble of your earthly confinement, traveling through time and space.
So, comic book wise, we're going back to 1944 with Action Comics number 77, which has, which apparently is white. Oh, there we go. Where we got the prankster, or looks like the prankster on the cover there, which is kind of funny. Jumping ahead to 1964, we have Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 52. Showing that the only time that Lois and Lana would get along in the Silver Age is if another woman was making a play for Superman. And can I say, that woman that's not what I would expect from a cover from the 1960s, is what I'm going to say for that. That's a very skin-tight outfit she's wearing. And those boots have a very significant high heel on it. I don't know what the turban's all about. I've never read the story. I've got a lot of questions, is what I'm saying. But yeah, it's just I just love the expressions on Lois and Lana's face. Like, you know, if I can't have them and you can't have them, nobody can have them, as they enter into their pact. Jumping ahead to 1974, we have Superman number 281. This is the first appearance of Vartox, who is very much based on Sean Connery from the film Zardoz. Actually, this guy's costume is a little more modest compared to the outfit Sean Connery. All I'm saying is if you Google Zardoz, don't do it at work. Because you might get HR talking to you. But no, he was an interesting character. He eventually would fall in love with Lana Lang, and they had kind of a doomed romance. From the same time period, just a couple days later, you had World's Finest Comics number 226, which was one of the 100 pages for 60 cents, which actually sounds like a really good deal for me. Because not only do you have a Superman and Batman story with Metamorpho, you also have Eclipso and Deadman and the Golden Age Sandman and Sandy. So that looks like it's... I think that's worth 60 cents. I really do. We're going to jump to 1994, and I am really sad that we had to stop doing this because we completely missed the 30th anniversary of Zero Hour. But we do get to talk about the 30th anniversary of Zero Month. For the entire month, from the second week of August into the first week of September, DC released a bunch of Zero issues. And the idea behind them was that if you had a bit of continuity or that you wanted to get rid of, or if you wanted to reestablish an origin or change something or add something, or just redefine who your character was, the Zero issue was going to give you that chance. It was a way to kind of grab new readers after Zero Hour, and I could say from anecdotal evidence, i.e., me, it really worked because I started buying a bunch of DC books at this time. This is Superman the Man of Steel #0 with an excellent John Bogdanove cover. This was the introduction of the character Conduit.
Yes.
And Kenny Braverman, who would go on to be the main daddy in the Death of Clark Kent story a year later. It recently returned. Kind of sad that Dan Jurgens never got a chance to do what he wanted to do in his Rebirth Action Comics run, because after Action Comics 1000, he was going to bring the character back.
Yeah.
From the same week, you have Superboy #0, which introduced his goggles that gave him heat vision and X-ray vision and stuff like that. Really solid cover there by Tom Grummett and Doug Hazelwood. I miss the leather jacket look for that character. I know he still wears one, but it's not the same. Jumping ahead to 2004, wow, we are getting deep into this era of DC Comics leading up to Infinite Crisis. We have Action Comics by Chuck Austin and Ivan Reyes, years before he would draw Action Comics for Brian Michael Bendis. Chuck Austin's run is mixed. It's and I say that like from the terms of the villains he used and everything, it was great. He just did not like Lois Lane and made her a horrible character. That was my big remembrance of this era. We also had Identity Crisis #3, which I'm surprised there are covers of because that story never happened. I'm kidding. You also had JLA #103, and this is when Justice League went from being like having a regular creative team to having a rotating staff, and this was a story by Chuck Austin and Ron Garney. And you also had Teen Titans #14, getting deeper into Jeff Johns' run of this. It was mainly a Beast Boy, because they had changed his name back to Beast Boy, which I never really liked. But Superboy was part of the team at the time. Then in 2014, we have Justice League United #4, which had Supergirl on the team, because why not? Smallville Chaos #1. This is when the Smallville book went to doing miniseries instead of an ongoing in the reprints. Superboy #34. No idea what's going on here. I am I had actually dropped the book at this point, so I couldn't tell you what was going on. And Superman Wonder Woman #11. We are still in Doomed, y'all. This is the third part of it.
Oh God.
I think it went on for like 3 months. But yeah, in the real world, August 15th is the birthday of Scott Cranford, who was born in 1967. He was the official Superman for the Superman celebration from 2000 to 2007. From all accounts, a really nice guy.
Yep, great guy. And he's still doing his own website, something heroic, something along those lines. But look up Scott Cranford. Of course, he's a gentleman and just an awesome dude. And he's still very much in the superhero world, but has obviously now been replaced by Josh Boltinghouse, who has been doing it for a long time for the Superman celebration.
I looked Cranford up on IMDb. He was a stand-in for Mr. Freeze on Batman and Robin.
Oh, cool.
Apparently superhero work is just in this guy's blood.
Yep.
And August 17th, which is this Saturday, is traditionally recognized as the birthday of Lois Lane. And that is This Week in History.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael, for revisiting this segment, This Week in History. That is awesome. Always good to look back and reflect on some of the things and some of the eras of Superman comic books that we have missed, and some of them that we actually lived through. A lot of those were interesting stories. Some I have no recollection of, as you said. Others are like I read them yesterday. So.
Yeah, the New 52 is despite being the most recent of the books that we talk about are the ones that are the least in my memory.
Couldn't agree more. Don't know why that is, but it soon forgotten. So yeah, we thank you for revisiting that. Mark and I were having a chat before we got on tonight. I was talking about an article that I wrote for the website on bagging and boxing comic books, which is not something too many people do anymore, but it's still something that a lot of people who collect physical copies of comic books need to do. But I'm looking at doing another article which talking about what is canon. Because I see a lot of people talking about videos and things that I put up on our YouTube channel, and they're going, oh, so, why can't they stick to the comic book canon, the original source material canon? And I'm like, what, can't new stories be told, or do we have to just keep revisiting old versions of comic book stories to retell and redo over and over and over and over again? I mean, My Adventures with Superman is a clear example of a great new canon. It's telling its own version of the story, and that's fantastic. But some people are so beholden to what they consider the true source material that comic books supposedly are, and that any TV or movie version has to mimic or retell the comic book version of that story. I think it's kind of annoying.
It's funny because, to me, people our age, which is a little older, we're kind of used to movies and television versions of comic book characters being completely different from the source material. I love The Incredible Hulk. I am a Hulk fan. He's my favorite Marvel character. That TV show with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno, which was basically my introduction, bears very little resemblance to the comic book, and yet I still love it. I think the problem is when you get into canon and history and continuity is that no one will ever agree on what the proper one is. So you have, and with Superman, you've had so many reboots and resets and retoolings and Elseworlds and Earth Ones and stuff like that it's almost impossible to do all of them because they're all just a little bit different. And don't get me started on headcanon, which I both respect and kind of scratch my head at the same time. It's just like, you do you, boo. But at the same time, that just seems like you basically having your own version because it makes you feel better, which is weird, but it's entertainment. So, yeah, no, that's a good one. I'm looking forward to seeing what the result of that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about respect for the character too. Everyone says, "Oh, it's not canon. It's not canon." You know what? Yeah, My Adventures, Superman is not canon, but it's very respectful to the characters.
Yeah.
Superman the animated series wasn't canon, but that was respectful. Superman the movie, as long as to me, as long as they're respectful to the character and give us some good material, I'm not gonna. Yeah, all right, I'll hem and haw over certain things, of course, but I'm not gonna argue too much. I mean, I just, as long as the characters are respectful enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. So interesting thinking about writing an article or delving into an article on that topic. But we are done for tonight's episode of Superman Homepage Live. I want to thank everyone who tuned in to be with us this past hour. Thank you to Nostalgic Pod Blast, Justin, Mind the Gap, Nicholas, and so many others, Michael, and so on and so forth, who are with us for this past hour, watching us live either on YouTube or on our Facebook account. Thank you for your company. Thank you to my co-hosts, Michael Bailey and Mark Lax. Thank you, gentlemen.
Pleasure as always, fellas.
And we will be back next week on Monday, August 19th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time for another edition of Superman Homepage Live. We hope you'll join us then. Thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. And don't forget, until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael Bailey and Mark Lax. Thank you for joining us on Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. Good night.